Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 11, Forces Split in Two. In the afternoon, Li Jinglong took Hung Jun with him as they passed through the courtyard. Origen laid in the yard, enjoying the sunlight. He held a blade of grass in his mouth and had one leg crossed over the other, dozing. Chu Yongxi sat there reading a book, while A Tai was fiddling with the lute in his hand. "Get up, it's time to get to work," Li Jinglong said. "Go to the Western market and find a specific kind of medicine called Lihun pollen." "What?" everyone asked as they gathered around. Lihun flowers are a special kind of flower that come from the western regions. The pollen they produce after pollination, when breathed in, will cause a person to sneeze and subsequently forget what happened before, Li Jinglong explained. In the future, if the exorcism department ends up accidentally involving the common folk while we perform our duties, we can use that to make our clean-up easier. Chu Yongxi, Origen, and A Tai all carefully studied Li Jinglong, their faces filled with suspicion. "What if there isn't any?" A Tai asked. "There's an 80% chance that it isn't there, probably," Chu Yongxi said. "If there's none, then that will be the end of it," Li Jinglong said. "This is a command, there is no room for bargaining. Go right now." "Zhenqi, where did you hear of this?" Origen's forehead was faintly wrinkled, as if he had found a detail that was amiss. Behind Li Jinglong's back, Hung Jun meekly raised his hand. In a flash, everyone's expressions changed to ones of resignation, and just as Li Jinglong turned his head back to look, Hung Jun immediately put his hand down. In the afternoon, the sky over Chang'an was clear and the wind carried a hint of autumn chill. Hung Jun and Li Jinglong walked along the street, and as they went on, Hung Jun's conscience flip-flopped back and forth. He felt that he had caused extra trouble for the other three, and seeing that the others were reluctantly dragged out to do this, if they searched for half a day and didn't find this rare flower, he was a little apprehensive of the scolding he'd receive about creating trouble when there is none when they returned. "Zhenqi, what if they can't find it?" "Zhenqi, honestly I'm also not sure if the Lihun flowers really work or not." "Zhenqi, why don't you talk anymore?" Li Jinglong. "Yi? Zhenqi, what's this?" At this time the streets were noisy and vibrant, and many people were bustling about. Hung Jun was afraid that he would get lost in the crowd, so he used his hand to grab Li Jinglong's sleeve. At that moment, Li Jinglong was very uncomfortable. He wanted to lift his hand to make a gesture, but now it was being tugged on, and the situation was extremely awkward. "Kong Hung Jun," Li Jinglong said, "don't tug at me when we're on the street." When Hung Jun was 4 or 5 in the Yaojin Palace, he would tug at Chong Ming's sleeve every day, and like a little clingy shadow he would follow his adoptive father around, so he had become used to tugging at someone. But now that he had been scolded by Li Jinglong he could only let go. Li Jinglong took him through many twists and turns before entering a small side alley. They wove in and out before finally arriving at the entrance to a house. He knocked on the door, and from the inside a woman's voice asked who it was. Li Jinglong reported his name as he lifted his feet and stepped inside the threshold. At the time, the woman, who was carrying a child in her arms, hurried over. She stopped in front of them and looked over her visitors. Hung Jun asked, "Is Chen Xiang home?" "Chen Xiang has been dead for many years," Li Jinglong gritted his teeth and whispered to Hung Jun. "Don't speak foolishly." Hung Jun startled. Upon seeing the dilapidated state of the yard and the destitute owner, he then asked, "Is his grandson or great-grandson here?" "Who are you?" That woman thought for a moment before saying, "Let's talk inside." In that dark hall, the infant in the woman's arms, which was no more than 6 months old judging by their size, began to wail. Hung Jun thought that little kids were cute and really liked them, so he extended a finger for the infant to hold and play with. As Li Jinglong began to discuss pleasantries with the woman, Hung Jun slowly realized, 51 years ago this famous poet had been persecuted by the bureaucrat Wu Sanxi and subsequently died in prison. Luckily, he had left behind his only son. However, the Chen family had not had many male heirs for generation after generation. A few years ago, the last scion of the Chen family failed the imperial examination, married a wife, who was this middle-aged woman before them, and for the sake of passing the examination the next time over, he studied hard, ignoring the wind and the cold, until finally he fell ill and passed away, leaving behind his widow and an infant still in its swaddling cloths. He's buried outside of the city. If you two acquaintances of my deceased husband are interested, the widow said. Tomorrow I can take you two there. Hung Jun's heart had already plunged into the depths of an icy lake. Before coming, Qing Xiang had mentioned that after giving the heart lamp to its rightful owner, he was to make friends with them, and figure out what had really happened back then, but this infant, even if it had obtained the heart lamp, wouldn't be able to grow up in a single night. Finished asking. Li Jinglong said. If you're done, then let's go back. Hung Jun racked his brains, but he couldn't come up with anything. However, the fact that there were still people of the Chen family was a good thing, so he pulled out a few pearls and handed them to the woman, saying, You two should live comfortably. If you run across any issues, come to the exorcism department in Jinchengfang to find me. The woman, upon seeing the shine of the pearls, immediately pushed them back, but Hung Jun repeatedly insisted, and in the end she could only accept them. Li Jinglong was very surprised, and he couldn't help shoot Hung Jun a considering look. You knew my deceased husband, the woman asked in gratitude. I didn't know him. Hung Jun honestly replied. The expressions of the other two were extremely strange. Li Jinglong didn't know what strange goal he had in mind now, and only could come up with a weak excuse. My little brother here really likes to read poems in his spare time, especially the ones that Chen Shii wrote. Ah, the woman understood and nodded. She imagined that this youth came because of Chen Xiang, and through reading his poems he had understood a little bit of his spirit, thus seeing the Chen family ancestor as an old friend. Hung Jun sighed, firmly knitting his brows as he paced back and forth in the hall. The two others didn't understand what exactly he was troubled about, and when he walked behind Li Jinglong's back, Li Jinglong finished his drink, saying, Let's go then. Hung Jun stood behind Li Jinglong, and seeing that Li Jinglong, the infant and the woman perfectly lined up in a straight line, suddenly had a moment of realization. If he could uproot the heart lamp out from within Li Jinglong's body, expel the true spirit from the confines of the body. Just as he finished speaking, Hung Jun lit up the pentacolor sacred light and gently pressed it to Li Jinglong's back. At that moment, the pentacolor sacred light sank into Li Jinglong's meridians and core. With a wang sound his entire body began to glow, the light growing so bright no one could look at him directly. The woman got a huge scare, and while hugging the infant she shouted, Li, Li, Li. Li Zhenqi, you're glowing. Aya, is anyone else there? Li Zhenqi is glowing. Before Li Jinglong and the widow could recover, Hung Jun had already, at the speed of light, sent the pentacolor sacred light into Li Jinglong's body. His meridians were empty and devoid of the heart lamp's presence. In that instant, Li Jinglong felt that all the qi and blood roiled about in his body as his 307 po were pulled out of his physical body. The mouthful of tea that he had just swallowed floated out against his will, spraying all over the woman and that infant, and the infant began to wail. A shishan later, in the exorcism department. Exactly what did you do? In the courtyard, Li Jinglong roared at Hung Jun, I'm docking a half-month's worth of your salary. Hung Jun quickly replied that there was no problem, he should dock a month's worth instead. Please calm down, calm down. How exactly have I wronged you? Li Jinglong was so angry that he was trembling as he spoke. Why do you need to ridicule me specifically as a pastime? Hung Jun hurried to explain, things are really too unbelievable, if I were to tell you I don't think you'd believe me. Li Jinglong turned around to leave, but Hung Jun tugged on his sleeve, and Li Jinglong again got angry. He said, your punishment is to stand here facing the wall. Stand here until it's time for dinner. You've caused trouble again, the carpiao, who drew joy from the troubles of others, said gleefully as he climbed out of the pond. Finally, there's someone to keep you in line. Hung Jun bared his teeth at the carp yao, feeling discontented in his heart. However, Li Jinglong hadn't been gone for very long before he returned to the courtyard. How unbelievable can it be? Li Jinglong stood in front of Hung Jun and quietly said, "Explain things clearly. As long as it's not some deliberate prank, this official won't punish you." Upon reaching this point, Hung Jun realized that even if he didn't want to explain, he would still have to, so he started describing the series of events that had been set into motion when he brought the heart lamp with him. He had accidentally lost it the night he and Li Jinglong became acquainted via their violent first meeting, and, to properly lay his cards out on the table, and just now he had wanted to stun the heart lamp out from his body to return it to Chen Xiang's descendant, as a way to fix things. Afterwards, Li Jinglong didn't say a word, and Hung Jun could only sigh. If Qing Xiang was here, then everything would be all right. So you're saying, because of a mistake during all that fighting and stumbling around, the heart lamp entered my body? I'm not sure. Hung Jun saw that Li Jinglong's expression changed for a moment and hurried to explain. If it's not in your body, then that's more troublesome. If it's missing, then I've messed up my mission, and I can't go home. Zhenqi, I have no quarrel with you, and this thing is really very important. I definitely won't mess with you. Off to the side, the carp yao said, not necessarily. There are a lot of people who you don't have quarrels with who you've dragged down before. Hush! Hung Jun and Li Jinglong simultaneously said towards the carp yao. Go back to your pond. Hung Jun added. The carp yao wriggled its tail and ran off. Li Jinglong said, we might as well check right now. I'll cooperate with your actions. Hung Jun tentatively asked, then. I'll start now, all right. Li Jinglong brought Hung Jun to the long corridor in the eastern chamber, and the two of them turned sideways and sat down. Li Jinglong untied his shirt, baring the top half of his body, and under the light of the sun, his wheat-colored muscular body looked slim but powerful. You should relax a little, Hung Jun said. It's going to be a little painful. Hung Jun took a deep breath, hoping to himself, please let me find out what happened to the heart lamp. Then he moved, pressing one hand to Li Jinglong's chest, sending the pentacolor sacred light into his veins. As soon as that happened, Li Jinglong jolted. He felt all the blood and qi through his body roiling as his face turned bright red and his facial features couldn't stop spasming. Hung Jun's xian energy wandered about in his meridians, once again causing his body to glow with a faint light. Closely following, Hung Jun retracted his pentacolor sacred light, paying close attention to his veins. Hung Jun concentrated hard, but just at that moment, someone spoke from behind. Wa! Li Zhenqi. What are you doing? An official from the Judiciary Department and a civil servant both stared at the youth sitting in front of a shirtless Li Jinglong, his hand outstretched, firmly placed on Li Jinglong's chest and not letting go. In an instant Hung Jun retracted his hand, but in that last moment, he felt it. Within Li Jinglong's meridians, there was a dormant seed of weak energy. Li Jinglong's entire face was bright red as he shoved Hung Jun behind himself for protection, and in a few motions he put on his clothes angrily. He looked very discomfited, but he didn't dare to blurt it out. He cupped one hand around the other and bowed, and with dignity, said, Deputy Chief Huang, please come in to have some tea. Hung Jun was over the moon. He found it. He really found it. This is very good. He can finally fix the trouble he made. Just as he was hopping around in the yard, Li Jinglong angrily interrupted, Kong Hung Jun. Hung Jun hurriedly copied Li Jinglong in bowing. The visitor was indeed Deputy Chief Huang Yang from the Judiciary Department, and together with that civil servant they were judging Hung Jun as if he was an idiot. Rise, Huang Yang said. This is a case that the Judiciary Department is giving to you. Minister Yang has said before, if it's any case that doesn't require the judiciary department to appear, then we are to send a copy of it to your department. In the future, they will be delivered by record keeper Lian Hao, behind me, and he will be in charge of communications with your exorcism department. With the founding of the exorcism department today, His Majesty and Chancellor Yang both see you in a favorable light, and you should work hard at handling cases for the good of the country. Li Jinglong nodded before showing Huang Yang and Lian Hao out the door. The two hadn't gone very far when from outside the wall, loud jeering laughter could be heard. In broad daylight and in his own department, what was Li Jinglong trying to do? Milk himself, ha 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 ha. Li Jinglong. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 12, Undertaking an Official Task. Li Jinglong and Hung Jun sat opposite each other in the hall. Hung Jun heaved a sigh as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his mind and said, "It's in your heart. That's great, I finally found it." These past few days, Hung Jun hardly thought about food and tea, thinking about the whereabouts of the heart lamp over and over every day. He now at least reduced his worries. "How do I get it back to you?" Li Jinglong asked. Hung Jun helplessly spread out his hands and said, "I'll leave it with you for the time being." Li Jinglong wanted to say something but then hesitantly nodded. Hung Jun decided to write a letter to Yajin Palace for help, but how can he send it? Send Zhao Zilong back to deliver the letter? However, this Carpiao was firstly lazy and secondly, didn't like to walk for fear of foot pain. Moreover, it was a far-flung journey and was dangerous to travel alone. He's afraid that Qingxiang was also not in Yajin Palace. If Chongming were to receive the letter, his answer would certainly be, "It's none of my business if you've caused a mistake." It's really difficult. Hung Jun thought. Looking up at Li Jinglong, he felt as if the latter wanted to say something again. "The heart lamp has dwelled in me," Li Jinglong mused. "Will anything change for me? There won't be any trouble." Hung Jun hurriedly explained, "In the five viscera, the heart belongs to fire, thus the heart lamp will protect your heart pulse. Moreover, this lamp's power is pure and unadulterated. Its light is full of vital energy. It will never do any harm." Li Jinglong nodded, yet still seemed to be having some impassioned struggle inside. Hung Jun didn't know why as he observed his expression. Finally, Li Jinglong once again asked, "Will I have mana as a result for this?" "Ah." Hung Jun replied, skeptical. "It is unlikely. There's no mana in your meridians. If you were given a rare magical weapon, you may not be able to unleash it." Li Jinglong muttered, "I understand. I'm just an ordinary human." There seemed to be a hint of disappointment in his voice. Hung Jun immediately understood his disappointment and asked, "You don't want to be just an ordinary human, do you?" Li Jinglong lifted his eyes to Hung Jun and asked in turn, "You, Mo Rijin, Hammurabi, and Chu Yangxi all have mana in your meridians, right?" Hung Jun seldom thought about this issue. Although the other three hadn't done anything yet, the fact that A Tai conveniently ignited a fire that day, it must also be a mana's skill. "That's right," Hung Jun honestly replied. "Where does this mana come from?" Li Jinglong asked again. Hung Jun never thought that Li Jinglong would inquire about it. "It's innate." The Carpiao who was lying outside the hall to bask in the sun turned over, faced them and stated, "Don't even think about it. How else would you call it family?" Li Jinglong finally gave an N sound and replied, "For now, don't inform the others about the heart lamp's matter. Although you are an ordinary human," Hung Jun consoled, "you still have a sword. You've got a great sword that could break through my penta-colored sacred light. Even my father's spurted flames." "Hey!" The Carpiao stopped Hung Jun's consoling, lest he exposed himself more of his family's resources. When Li Jinglong heard this, he suddenly came back to his senses, got up and grabbed his sword. "This is Lord Di's former sword. Hung Jun can finally take a good look at it." Li Jinglong felt emotional as he got lost in thought. "When I was young, I admired Lord D and read the book he propagated. In the book, there were grotesque and variegated bestial ows, immortals and humans living in seclusion in the divine land, unruly chis that assembled together, and mo's that had been reincarnated for hundreds of years. Hung Jun stroked the sword and thought out loud, so don't you want to be an exorcist like any other ordinary humans? Li Jinglong watched Hung Jun's fingers stroking the blade and slowly said, that is not so, but perhaps it is natural to yearn for it. I still remember a paragraph after the book, which was in Lord D's words in nearly 100 years, the divine land is about to face a catastrophe that would ravage everything. However, he was born in an untimely life as he was already an octogenarian. There will be no successor to guard the great Tang. I am afraid that after the soul returns to the Lois, the divine land will soon be in chaos. Lord Di then handed down a book and a sword, for whoever inherits it must guard the entire divine land. As Hung Jun heard these spoken words, he was suddenly touched by Li Jinglong's solemnity. The divine land's chaos was unlikely to happen. However, according to the task entrusted to him by Chongming and Qing Xiang, many Yaoguais were lurking around the world, thus Chang'an's chaos should be inevitable. Where's the book? After seeing the sword, Hung Jun recalled the Mara that was mentioned by his father Chongming and Qing Xiang, and suddenly grew inquisitive. It was burned by my father, Li Jinglong said, his gaze fixed on the blade in Hung Jun's hand. They never believed it. They just regarded it as Lord D's unfounded ravings in his old age. Hung Jun thought for a moment. Although he didn't know the origin of the sword, he knew it wasn't just an ordinary weapon. He asked, "Where did you find this sword?" Li Jinglong replied, "In the hands of a merchant from the western regions. Decades after Lord D's death, I inadvertently found it in an auction in Jubao village. In order to prevent it from falling into the hands of the Hu people, I sold a lot of things before I bought it back. I don't know why I have this hearty talk with a mere acquaintance. It's just Hung Jun." Li Jinglong sighed and said, "Perhaps only you would believe me. Origin. They will also believe in you," Hung Jun consoled. He didn't know the origin of the sword, but he felt as if he had seen it somewhere. Li Jinglong replied, "I don't want to get wordy with them." At that time, Hung Jun didn't know that there were many troubles and hardships in the world, such as an unrecognized talent and untimely life. However, after these words, he gradually began to understand him. That's right. Hung Jun had an idea and said, "Even though ordinary humans don't have mana, perhaps they can still practice." I remember. Hung Jun. The Carpiao turned over like a fried fish as he faced them again and cried out, "Don't cause trouble to him again." Hung Jun thought that with his own constitutional troubles, it might lead Li Jinglong to be stuck in a quandary, thus he had to give it up for the time being. Throughout these days, Li Jinglong thought that Hung Jun was a sloppy young master who only liked to idle around. After becoming familiar with him, he found that he really was not as stubborn and mischievous as he first thought. Thereupon, that changed his point of view. He was about to make insinuations and ask about his life when Origin, A Tai, and Chu Yangxi returned. Found it Chu Yangxi was so worn out that he kept panting while constantly wiping his sweat. He then placed the box on the table. Just as Li Jinglong was about to open it, Hung Jun promptly pressed it down and said, "You have to pinch your nose and find a time when there is no wind. Otherwise, once you sneeze from the pollen when it flies out, everything will be forgotten. We've been looking for it for hours." Origin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You two were drinking tea here." Li Jinglong coughed. The dignified Zhenqi still needed to do such a thing. A Tai followed and said, "Zhenqi, what about the money?" Li Jinglong took out the money bag. A Tai gasped before he stated, "That's 3,200 taels of silver." Li Jinglong. 3,200 taels of silver. Li Jinglong roared. "How could that be?" "Yes A Tai, Origin and Chu Yangxi looked at Li Jinglong in bewilderment. A Tai added, 4 taels for Lihun pollens." 1 tael is equal to 800 silver. 4 times 8 is 32, so that makes 3,200 in total. Did I miscalculate? Li Jinglong was speechless. For a moment, he saw the four of them staring at one another as if they were accustomed to it. Everything used by exorcists is so expensive. Li Jinglong frowned. Either I will pay for it first. Origin suggested, giving Li Jinglong a way out. After all, Li Jinglong also spent a lot of money in renovating the entire exorcism department. I can give 800 taels. Chu Yongxi smiled. Come on. I got it. A Tai replied. Origin said, let's make this clear. All the advanced money by A Tai will be given to him. Li Jinglong got up and said, this can't. Zhenqi, sit down, sit down. Chu Yongxi smiled. How can we let Zhenqi pay for it? AI. Zhenqi even disregarded our bygone enmity and didn't blame us for indiscriminately hitting people. Hung Jun. Hung Jun immediately understood even without the need to explain and began to fish out his pearls. Right, right, right. Don't punish us again for what happened that day. I'll make up a share of money. Hung Jun. Everyone exclaimed in unison, mingled with sorrow and indignation. They originally had a general idea. Chu Yongxi, A Tai and Origin had been waiting outside presumably for a long time, preparing to use the Lihun pollen to make a concession against Li Jinglong. Unfortunately, Hung Jun's words says it all. Their faces immediately turned pale and blue. Hung Jun puzzledly asked, did I say something wrong? Li Jinglong didn't want to continue this topic. He raised his hand to stop them and said, the money is counted as the public purse. I will ask the court for funds when the time comes. Put the box aside first and let's share it some other day. That's all. He got up and placed the box full of Lihun pollen on top of the shelf in the hall. What's this? Origin found the official correspondence on the table. A sinking case sent by Judiciary Department. Li Jinglong stated. Something to be done this afternoon. No way, the three lamented. We're going out again. Hung Jun asked, was it difficult to find the Lihun pollen? So tiring. It wasn't in the West Market. Chu Yongxi said. A Tai took us to the underground black market in Jubao village. That big eating merchant insisted the three of us to disguise as women to accompany him to dance Hyukshuan. And we've been dancing for an hour. But why are there some grasses behind the three of you? The Carpiao said behind them. You enjoyed riding horses outside the city, right? Heaven and earth were indeed defending Hung Jun and the Carpiao as they constantly act jointly to undermine somebody's plans. The three burst into loud laughter and immediately diverted the topic. A Tai spoke, Aya. Here it is. We can get to solve the case and render meritorious contributions. Chu Yongxi, yes, yes. We need to contribute to the country, yes. Origin rubbed his hands and said, let me see. What's the enormous case? Brothers, this case will rout you. Li Jinglong glanced at the three. He took a deep breath and no longer investigated them and stated, as long as it is not a case involving such an important matter as human life, then you are all allowed to do it tomorrow. Let me see. He lowered his head, undid the case file and spread it out as he read. On the 5th day of the 9th month, Lady Qingguo of Daning Mansion lost a white curly-haired shosi of Duezi, nearly 1 foot and 6 inches long, with blue and gold yin-yang eyes. 23rd day of the 9th month, 12 year of Tianbao. Exorcism Department's first case, finding a cat. Degree of difficulty, herringbone level. Area, the entire city of Chang'an. Involved in the case, the Right Prime Minister Yang Qiuzhong's younger sister, Lady Qingguo. Detailed case, on the 5th night of the 9th month, Lady Qingguo, who's actually a cat lover, lost Qing'er. According to the maid's statement, the cat was frightened and left the mansion late at night and its whereabouts are still unknown. Meanwhile, Yulin Army, Shenwu Army, Longwu Army, Suanjia Army, and other 6 armies had been searching all over Chang'an for 10 days, but failed. This case has been transferred to the Exorcism Department of the Great Tang. Remuneration: the Imperial Consort and Lady Qingguo will certainly give a heavy reward. Li Jinglong's complexion couldn't look any worse. Chu Yongxi hastily said, "Quick, pour some water for Zhenqi. This look is no good. Why don't you give Zhenqi some of the Lihun pollen that were just bought?" Hung Jun suggested. "Stop that now!" They hurriedly interrupted Hung Jun. Origen poured water and A Tai delivered the cup as Hung Jun sympathetically patted Li Jinglong on his back. After a long time, Li Jinglong finally inhaled. The Exorcism Department has just been re-established and the first case they received was to find a pet for Yang Yehuan's 8th older sister? This is simply a great insult. That's too difficult. Hung Jun said. Chang'an is so vast, how can we find it? Don't take it. Li Jinglong slammed down the file and angrily said, "Retreat. This is simply insulting." They were helpless, as if they had already expected such a result. Early morning the next day, the 4 men respectively yawned and followed Li Jinglong along the main street of Chang'an with a tedious look on their faces. The shops along the street were still closed. "Zhenqi, we've thought about it all night," A Tai said. "There's really no man's skill that might possibly find a cat." Li Jinglong brushed away his sleeve and said, "Look for it. You all have nothing to do anyway." Hence, the 4 men split up and each went towards the 4 corners of Chang'an, east, west, north, and south, and began to inquire around the whereabouts of the Shosi. Arguably, the 6 armies had already conducted a thorough investigation and should have interrogated a lot of Chang'an people. However, it was hard to say whether there were any new news these days. Hung Jun was assigned to the southern part and solely had to walk for an hour. According to the description on the detailed case, he was very skeptical that the cat might have already run out of the city. Kong Hung Jun. As Hung Jun just left the long street, he saw Origen waving to him and beckoning him over. A Tai and Chu Yongxi were also there. "Brothers will take you to play. Let's go," Origen stated. "No more work?" Hung Jun asked. "You're not really planning to find the cat for him, are you?" A Tai looked flabbergasted. Hung Jun said, "I'll look for it. I think he's a good man." The 4 exorcists gathered together in the alley. After yesterday's event, Hung Jun's impression of Li Jinglong more or less had changed, thus he told the 3 men a little explanation. Of course, he skipped those that shouldn't be said and merely mentioned that the Exorcism Department, Li Jinglong, really wanted to do something for the Great Tang. How? He was an ordinary human and was even subjected indifferently by the court. A lot of things would be involuntary and wouldn't help himself. All 3 listened with indescribably strange expressions. As he spoke, Hung Jun suddenly understood because of Zhenqi's origin, they regarded themselves as the same kind but not counting Li Jinglong as one of their own. The most painful thing in the world is to make extravagant demands that don't belong to you. A Tai stated and shrugged. Is that so? Origen mused. Why don't you say it clearly? Perhaps he has some kind of persistence and self-respect. Hung Jun thought about it and said, "I'll go and help him look for it. I can't find anything else to say." The other 3 looked at each other and nodded. Origen stated, "Since that's the case, then." Origen spread out his hands. For Hung Jun's sake, he'll help him find this one time. The 4 of them agreed upon to meet at the East Market for lunch and went their separate ways. End chapter.